Hey everybody, Steve Mordew here for another issue of Steve Has a Chat. This one will be a little different. As you know, usually I call Microsoft people out of the blue, but with all of the AI stuff going on, there's just nobody wanting to take my calls right now. And I thought, okay, who's the next most important person that people would want to hear from? And I thought of my friend Mark Smith, and he graciously agreed to hop on my Steve Has a Chat as a non-Microsoft yet still associated with Microsoft person to talk about some stuff. So Mark, how you doing?
Good, thank you, Steve. It's good to be on the show. First time
Oh,
caller.
cool. Yeah, first time caller and your video is already frozen. How nice.
Oh no, I think the last time that we had a chat was with a guest. We were in a hotel room in Florida, and we got Steve Guggen. Was it
Yeah,
Guggenheimer? What's it?
Guggenheimer.
Yeah,
Googs.
Googs.
Yeah, Googs. That's right.
Talking about
Sitting
the
sitting there with
ISB program back then when he was leading it before he left
God.
Microsoft.
Yeah. Sitting at the coffee table in the Airbnb,
Yeah,
talking to him on our laptop because it was the only chance we could get him. Yeah,
yeah.
he's moved on now, but he left a pile of crap behind him. That they're slowly trying to clean up. That one, don't get me started on AppSource and ISVs and AppSource. That one's been a real challenge.
It's
But
something
I did
that's
want to.
it's gone on for years, right? As an app source, I can remember my first conference in the US, and this would be like four directors ago of BizApps, and they couldn't, right from the get go, it's never been in a successful. Even its predecessors were never successful. The tooling Microsoft had.
Yeah, I mean, I complain, but all of our rapid start apps are. That's the only place you can get them is on AppSource, and we got over 100,000 users have gone through that tool to get them.
Wow,
So
wow,
there's been a lot of stuff that has come through it, but frankly, it should be a million. I mean, it should
yeah,
be much easier for people to understand and engage. And it's we recently switched them all over to transactable in app source just
hmm,
to try and get rid of another headache. So now they can buy our apps right on app source, add it right to their Microsoft account right there with their Office license. There's a little rapid start right there in the list,
yeah.
so they can it's a little easier. And so yeah, we're actually seeing it even uptick more now. We recently launched a new app, kind of modeled on the original Rapid Start we launched in 2015, which was an app that sat on top of Dynamics at the time and
Okay.
hid a bunch of features to make it easier for people to use.
Mm,
And we moved that off of Dynamics when they created the Power Platform and dropped it down to the platform
nice.
and just forgot about Dynamics. But over the years, the costs have gone up and prices have gotten higher. The Dynamics products haven't gotten any simpler, if anything, more complex. So
Exactly.
we kind of saw an opportunity. Let's go back to that. Let's take our sales app that everybody loves, and let's see if we can create a version of that to sit on top of Dynamics by design.
Okay.
So we launched that recently, and that one's getting a lot of interest. So we'll see how that one goes.
How did you get away with that? Because there's restricted entities, and um, one of Microsoft's favorite for many years is this concept of multiplexing, which
Hmm.
I feel in the AI driven world and the API driven world that we're in now with the Power Platform. Like multiplexing made sense when it was Dynamics CRM, Dynamics 365 CRM before they did the switch. But in the current world, I don't understand if multiplexing should be the bigger deal it used to be 10, 15 years ago. I just and therefore I
Yeah,
go back to, isn't there a bunch of restricted entities? If you're building this on top of Dynamics, how are you getting around that?
yeah. Both of those are deep topics. On the multiplexing side, they've kind of been forced to relax those rules a little bit.
Mm,
For the app that we built, multiplexing isn't an issue, but the restricted tables are, and I'll get to that. But on the multiplexing side, somebody had posted not that long ago on LinkedIn somewhere about, can I create a Microsoft form and have employees use that form to create leads and then use a flow to push it into CRM?
yeah,
And my first thought was, by any definition I've ever seen, that is absolutely multiplexing. And Microsoft came back and said, nah, that's okay.
yeah.
So they've gotten real fuzzy on what is and what isn't multiplexing. Uh, You know, I think if you've got even Charles on one of the chats before said, if you're doing something with the intent to get out of licensing, you're probably multiplexing.
Mm.
Well, these people described something that had the entire intent of getting out of licensing, and Microsoft said, no, that's not multiplexing. So
Yeah.
I think they're losing track of what multiplexing is right now.
I think it's very hard, right? When you go and look at, let's just take the SAP and Power Platform story. When you're creating an interface on top of SAP data using Power Apps and Power Automate to actually push that data around,
Yeah.
isn't that multiplexing with somebody else's product, right? And of course, the
Or
story is absolutely
Salesforce.
not. You're just creating an interface experience, but the data security model, everything stays in place, which is a good story and it's correct. And that's why I just don't believe in a modern world of SaaS solutions that you can really be, multiplexing was an on-premise construct, right? The idea
Yep.
was that you couldn't create a SQL database on the side, do a whole bunch of stuff in there, and then just push it into the Dynamics suite of products back then. And I think it needs to die. It's history.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you that it definitely is an archaic idea, but if they killed it, they do open up the gates. I mean, you think about, well, getting back to the Repstart app that we were just talking about for sales.
Yeah.
So there's originally they had this idea of restricted entities, and you can go back to the chat I have with Charles. He said, yeah, that's a down and dirty, kind of quick fix solution. We got much better ideas. I've seen a couple. They'll probably be coming out soon because that's the antithesis of what we're trying to do
Yeah.
with a common data model and all this sort of stuff. But it still remains today the same as it was when he said that 3 years ago. So I think their focus has moved to different things as they thought, well, this is working good enough.
Yeah.
They've shuffled over the years a couple of things in and out of restricted entities, but not that, some time ago, leads and opportunities became, they're non-restricted, they're not restricted entities. So account and contact, of course, is core to the platforms. They're not restricted.
Yeah.
They took leads and opportunities, which are basically those the COLA entities, right?
Yep.
Your contact, opportunity, lead, account. That's the classic CRM COLA, is not restricted. And I think that a lot of customers, maybe in enterprise and other places, well, let's just build a Power App and we'll just drag all this stuff in here and use it, and we're good. It's not restricted. Not that easy, because
Is that right?
behind the idea of a not restricted entity doesn't mean you can use whatever the hell you want. What that means is you can use the table.
Okay.
The table. You cannot use the views.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot use the forms. You cannot use any of the IP from the sales app that comes in and sits or operates in and around that table. You can use the table.
So you saying, like, if you had the if you used, for example, invoke closed opportunity, right, and you go win loss, and what competitor did it go to, what was the amount, you're not allowed to use that piece of functionality, but you can use underlying table.
You can use the underlying. Well, yeah, you can use the underlying table, but you can't use their IP.
Right.
So
well, how many people? Even just a simple, how many years have people been going, I want to have my own way of closing opportunities. So if I think you've created a perfect scenario there, right? Because you're allowing all the ability to keep the structure in place, because other data sets might be connected to that, right, in your organization, but you're now allowing one, I assume, a Power App type of experience interface, and but you've got full configuration control of how things happen in a modern business world. And at the end of I've had complained for years that Dynamics 365 sales looks pretty much like it did 20 years ago with some lipstick on it. Like, technically, it hasn't altered all that much.
Well, Dynamics 365 sales is a Power App interface.
Yeah.
It is now. Whatever it was before, today, Dynamics 365 sales is a Power App.
Yeah.
It's a powerful Power App, but it's a Power App at its core, built on the same platform. You customize it the same way. Everything's the same there.
Mm.
But Microsoft has built a lot of IP, and a lot of that IP is quite valuable. You've got sales forecasting
Yeah.
or pipeline forecasting. You've got lots of different things in there that they've built on top of tables,
Yeah.
including other tables, and lots of IP to make it do things. But the table itself is available if you can figure out how to navigate, through these rules and avoid all this stuff. So I mean, it involves things like modifying the ribbons on
Wow.
the
Yeah.
lead table so that someone who doesn't have a Dynamics license won't see the button up there to close this lead,
Mm-hmm.
which initiates Microsoft IP.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got our own IP now with our quick buttons to close that lead through our own logic, not using their logic at all.
Yeah.
So imagine that across the whole sales app. You really create a somewhat fragile bubble of
Mm-hmm.
compliance.
Yeah.
One of my concerns is people acquiring our app and then deciding, oh, it's completely customizable, right? So they'll
Mm-hmm.
be, oh, let's just pull in the pipeline stuff. Okay, well, you just broke the bubble.
Yeah.
You can do that, but
Yeah.
now you have to have a Dynamics license. So the use case we were thinking about is, not all your sellers can use our app, but maybe you got like appointment setters,
Mm.
right? They got
Mm.
incoming leads coming in from the website into the system. They make a phone call, try and get somebody to have an appointment. They get someone to say yes, they convert it and
Yeah.
send it over to some salesman who uses all the power and everything else to try and close the deal. But their job is making phone calls and getting yeses or nos. They
Exactly.
don't need all that power for that kind of a job. So that's kind of what we've targeted. But we've already had customers talking about, well, can we do more? Well, you can do more, and
Yeah.
certainly anything custom.
Mm.
Just don't break the bubble. Don't
Yeah.
break the bubble by pulling in Microsoft IP. If you want Microsoft IP, go use the Microsoft app.
Yeah.
Go use the Microsoft app. But if you've got users that don't need it or need other things, well, you can save quite a bit of money. I mean, this can run on
Yeah.
a $5 license.
Yeah, there's so many use cases for that. I mean, just one came to mind with a customer some years ago we did, which was they had their main, contact us phone number on their website, which would go to the person sitting on reception in the organization. And all that
Mhm.
person needed to do, and we used to use the form, the kind of the capture form. It wasn't the full form experience. It was just like, hey, there's 3 compulsory fields. We need their first name, last name, and their phone number, as an
Yep.
example. But they still required a full license, where under this model, they could just literally have one icon on their screen, double tap, capture that data, and then you're handling it from where it gets routed to using Power Automate or something, I suppose, behind the scenes.
Yep. Yep. So
Yeah.
it'll be a good option for a segment of a sales team.
Yeah.
The particular people on a sales team that don't need the power, but right
Hmm.
now they don't have an option, right? Team member is useless.
Yeah.
Sales professional, which is a feature limited version of enterprise, can't be used in the same environment as enterprise. They did
Yeah.
that by
Crazy.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that either, but
Yeah.
it's not technically restricted. It's license restricted. So there's customers out there doing it, but even that's $65,
Yeah.
and frankly, ours is more powerful than that one for $5.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be an interesting year for that app, and hopefully Microsoft doesn't stare at it too hard and want to close any doors on us.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because, like, how many years? It's probably been 6 years we've been asking, could we get the data model for the Dynamics solutions available, at the Power Platform level? And it's always going to be, and like, so let's say you build an app and then the customer goes, you know what, we want to use part of Dynamics now. And we'd want to go, hey, well, we've used the same
Yep.
naming convention. We use the same data model, no problem. That was for years being promised that, yeah, it's coming, we're working on it. Never has. I doubt it. I suspect nobody's working on it because, one, it
Yep.
makes the scenario you're talking about way easier, right, for anybody
Yep.
to do it. But then, do you remember back in the day, we questioned a lot around in the licensing construct of anybody building on the Power Platform that Microsoft didn't deem a data model IP. Remember, we were
Yeah.
like, because it said in the fine print there that if you create a particular data model, we could use it. And, you
Yep.
know, we're like, well, isn't that IP? And they're like, nah, because it's not data. And so
Yeah.
there's theoretically with their whole the open initiative they did with SAP Adobe some years ago, which was around creating common data models that we could all use.
Yep. Yeah, for the accelerators and stuff.
Yeah. We've
Yep.
not really seen any iteration on that. And I think SAP went
Yep.
their own way, as did Adobe. But yeah.
As you would expect. I mean, I remember talking with Charles when he was talking about that open data initiative and the grand plan that, hey, you know, SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, us, we're all going to agree on. I'm like, right there. I said, okay, yeah, right there. Stop talking. You're never going to agree on anything.
No.
You know, so dead on launch. You know, I just knew that wasn't going to get beyond a bunch of nice chit chat. I mean, I've still got the picture of Satya Nadella sitting with Benioff with their big smiles about their
Yes.
partnership. But that, you know, that
Yep.
stuff's all going to shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The
So,
LinkedIn acquisition kind of skewed that, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we jumped off on a tangent there talking about my stuff, but really what I wanted to talk to you about was the 90-day mentoring challenge, which, as you know, I've been watching closely for years as you've been doing this thing. And it just seems like, I mean, I thought the very first time you did it, wow, that is an amazing thing that cannot be topped. And you keep topping it. You keep making that thing better. The reviews coming back from people keep getting bigger and more. And I just imagining your life. I mean, I couldn't do it. I mean, one guy, you know, that's a hell of a lot of work.
It's not one guy anymore because my wife is like massively involved in what I'm doing as well.
Okay, two.
Yeah, we've got a brand now. We've got a brand like the 90-day mentoring challenge. What does it say? Something like Power Platform Dynamics 365. And so things are growing. Like I think I've ran that. I ran it for 5 years, and then and the fifth time I ran it, I just felt like I was out of juice. I had, you know, I didn't have the wherewithal. I mean, one year I ran it in the morning and in the evening to hit 2 time zones for people, you know. It was all live. It was intense. And then what I realized is that so much of what I was doing in those lives, because it was still just me speaking like people were drinking from a fire hose, we had Q&A at the end, that I decided, you know, there's a lot of this, and it was based on feedback as well, that people were like, people were getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning to attend these sessions and stuff around the world because I wanted it to be global. And so I decided to actually make the stuff that I am talking about all available on demand. So people could do it in their time zones. And you know, we're halfway through this in 2024 now of the cohort, 114 people were the final numbers on this one, and I've learned a lot again. One, there's now 12 modules of content rather than the original 6, and you know, people are just, you know, I've had comments like after the first module, the cost was worth it just for this one module. I've learned so much in how it applies. And so it's been great to distill it down, but develop a model that really allows anybody in any part of the world to do the program. And this, the reason for day one, me doing it always, like I did it online before COVID forced everybody online, right? Yeah, and my logic was this: if you're in Estonia or Slovenia or some remote country that has not had a massive push in from Microsoft yet, and there's not a community there, but you want to do a career in, you know, Power Platform or Dynamics, how do you get, you know, somebody that looks at you from how do you sculpt your career to where you want to go, you know, and what does it look like? And so I always made it so it was internationally available, and I think over 60 countries now I've had people attend from. And so it's been great to see. And I mean, I've got one slide that I show in the program with about 40 odd MVPs on it that have gone through the program. And some of them were MVPs before, you know, doing it, but the lion's share have all become MVPs since doing it. So
it's been an MVP creating machine.
it's been
You know?
impactful, right? It's been impactful.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of value has been driven in the community. I mean, one thing I'm always blown away, like when I committed to a career 20 years ago in business applications with Microsoft, and of course it wasn't even called Dynamics CRM back then. It was called MS CRM when I started. And what I've noticed over my career is so many people's lives have been positively impacted by choosing this career. In other words, they've not necessarily had a university degree, but they've been able to get into the very top level of IT paid positions because of staying the course, developing experience, being on multiple projects over time. You learn a lot from experience, right? As well as your constant need to learn what's coming, what's new in tech. And I've seen it's not just the individual. This is the power of it, right? It's not just the individual that earns an income. It's that individual probably has a partner. They probably have children. They have extended family, and the money they're earning is paying for all that. So I've always seen the massive human factor in that the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 has provided to people that didn't go and do a ComSci degree, at university.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of them became MVPs is great and interesting, but that's the bigger value is you got somebody, comes into the program that maybe isn't making very much money, maybe not even working, maybe recently displaced, or who knows what situation, right? Husband died, and suddenly, I got to figure out how to make a living and go through something like this and end up being highly employable at a reasonable, salary because of what they've picked up through this knowledge. That to me is more valuable than the MVPs that have come out of it. The MVP is just kind of a further testament, The real home run is that kind of person that goes through, gets a job, and then becomes an MVP starting from that starting point. It's amazing. So, and it also makes sense that you're able to move a lot of it to on demand now because you've been doing this long enough that, the script is tight, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I have to imagine the first couple times you were doing it, like you say, you make adjustments, but after 5 years, adjustments have been made. Now the only adjustments really are new technology. Now you got AI is a new technology that needs to be incorporated. So that's the thing I never. That's to me the most challenging part about training programs is they're not static. I mean, you create it, you spend a bunch of time creating assets, and they are almost, in a very short time they become stale. So, and you see that out there. There's lots of training assets that I've seen that, I'll click and start watching a video, and the first thing I'm seeing is a UI that has been out of date for 3 years, and I'm going to stop watching it because I'm not going to learn anything if it's not current. Yeah, I don't want to learn what they did. I want to learn what they're doing, now. So, and I know you've got a lot of inside access to be able to know that stuff, both as MVP and with the work you do with Microsoft. It would seem to me, and I'm sure you probably already thought about this, that this would be a huge opportunity for organizations, partner organizations, to explore. As you go ahead and tell me. You're already ahead of me on this one, right?
Yeah. So I mean, this is what's been crazy, right? Is that because so many people from, I've had people that have done the 90-day mentoring challenge from Accenture, from Avanade, from KPMG, from PwC, from Capgem, and
as
they
individuals.
As individuals, right?
They've
paid for themselves to come on the program. That feedback is bubbled up. On the current cohort that I'm doing, there's a company in Canada that's put 10 staff on the 90-day mentoring challenge. There's a company in the UK that have put multiple staff and have told me on the next one, more staff are coming on it, because the impact that it's had. So then I got reached out to by one of the largest consulting companies in the world. And I say large, around 350,000 employees, right? And they said, hey, would you run a dedicated one? Don't change anything, but just a dedicated one for our staff so that we can give back to our staff. They're like, it's been crazy couple of years. COVID, there's been downturn economically in the market. There's been restructures, and you know, our staff feel that perhaps we haven't sown into them and given them resources to develop their skills and stuff. And so would you run a dedicated cohort just for our organization over a 90-day period
Really?
again? And so when we
Really?
looked into this, we found that Microsoft has this thing called co-funding. And part of the co-funding incentives that they release each year is based on the license sales that partner does. And of course, if you're, you know, a 350,000 strong organization, you're probably doing some very large license deals.
Yep.
You get this co-funding for professional development of your staff. And then a Microsoft person out of the blue reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I love this 90-day mentoring challenge. Have you looked at co-funding? Because I know a lot of partners in the particular geo this person was talking about have, you know, hundreds of thousands of co-funding money that they need to spend with an external provider that don't have an
Use it or
external
lose it.
provider to do it. And it has to be totally focused just on Microsoft. So they can't go, oh, you know, we're going to get them to do a ProSci training as an example,
Yeah,
right? Because
right.
that's not just focused on Microsoft. That's an industry standard
Yeah.
change management, you know, training program. Or let's say they're going to go, oh, we're going to just do it on design thinking, you know, and yeah, but that's not Microsoft centric, because what I've done is 100% Microsoft. In fact, it goes a level below and really focuses just on Azure, M365, and Dynamics, which I know is pretty much Microsoft, but I'm not doing Xbox. But what it does is that it really allows the staff to come to a new level in their understanding of their role, how to add value in every project, how to communicate effectively with customers. And so, yeah, we just had the first customer partner that's not just bought one cohort, they've bought two. So what they've done is said, hey, we're going to have half our staff go through in the, you know, the April, May, June, and then the July, August, September, we want another one run for that. And yeah, so it's exciting to see that because it really moves the dial for people. It really, unless they totally opt out, right? And like some people think, you know, I've noticed this, is they're like, oh, if I do the training program and I just like watch it on high speed, but I don't do any of the labs, I don't do any of the assignments, that's all I need. And of course they're like,
skim it.
yeah, why don't I get the value out of it? Like all these people are talking about the amazing value, but I'm not getting that. I'm like, and it was a guy called Nathan, who's been on the program, Nathan Rose. He's actually in Auckland, and he was like, this program, you get out what you put in. Like if you do the labs, if you do the assignments, if you go through that process and apply it to yourself. I mean, he was like, he wasn't an MVP. He did the program and he said his career just went 180, right? It just took off. He became MVP. He got promoted. He got employed by larger organizations and stuff. It transformed the way he thought. And it's these type of testimonials that I feel, I know it's giving the value that the community need and want, that every employer can't put these type of programs together for themselves, because ultimately an employer is biased in the interests of the company, not the interests of the individual, right? And so what I give is this kind of unvarnished, in the interests of the company, in the interest of the individual, experience around what the art of how big their career could go if they wanted.
You know, I mean, and obviously that individual is benefiting immensely, but so is that organization, because they employ that individual. Now, they may find after they go through your challenge that they're going to have to pay that individual more because they're worth more. But that's what you want is valuable employees, you know. And you made me think earlier, you know, it's kind of like a gym membership. You know, you sign up for a gym membership. If you don't go, you don't get anything out of it. If you go and you half-ass it, you don't get anything out of it.
It's not the gym's fault, right, that you didn't get the muscles, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, there's a gym on every corner, and they all have the same equipment. They all do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else that's doing anything like what you're doing in our space. So it's not like, I mean, I know there's other training programs and things you can sign up here and watch some videos and stuff, but so hands-on.
Yeah.
So to make sure I'm clear, so you've got a program that, let's say I'm a partner, right? Which I am a partner. And I've got Microsoft dollars, you know, out there, you know, that I've earned and don't really know how to use, and if I don't use it, I'm going to lose it in
That's
particular.
right.
But
Yeah.
I've got these dollars, and I want to put them in the best spot. I could take my staff that I want to move to another level
Hmm.
and roll them all in your program, and use Microsoft money to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's
That's it.
It kind of makes it a no-brainer in my
It
mind.
does, right? And I hadn't even considered it. It was the actual community that came to me with this proposition.
Yeah.
I just thought I was doing a public course at, I've capped it at 100 because I found if it gets higher than 100, because there's a big community that develops privately behind this that I run.
Mhm.
When you get more than 100 people, I've found it gets unwieldy. Like you wake up in the morning
Noisy.
and like someone said the other day, they missed it for a week and there were 700 messages, in the group. And they're like,
Right.
what? Of people
Yeah.
talking and sharing their ideas. And the community is probably, I believe, I mean, my content's good, but
Yep.
I think the community element is what's amazing because what you do is you get people, like I've had Microsoft staff do the 90-day mentoring challenge as an employed
Yep.
by Microsoft and doing the 90-day. And what you do is you get this kind of sharing of information from somebody, let's say, junior in their career. I've got people that are 20 years in their career on
Yeah,
this. And of course, this person goes, how do I take this step? And this person gives this is what I did, right? And there's this very much sharing of, I'm seeing, yesterday, people in America in the group going, hey, I've got this job opening. Who wants it? Like, do you know anybody?
Right.
And there's this sharing. And one of the things I say, you never know, your next employer might be in this group. The person's going to offer you a job or want to go into partnership with you. Because I talk about, you can work for a partner, but you could start your own company. You could become an ISV and create add-on products. And do you know what I see a trend happening in the market at the moment with consultants is consultants starting to do side hustles.
Yep.
And it's MVPs that I've seen it come out. On my MVP show, podcast, I have noticed more and more, and these guys will do side hustles that there's never a conflict with their current employer. I don't know that they declare it with their current employer, but
Yeah.
there's
Right.
never a conflict. They'll work in another geography. They'll do night work. I had a guy the other day that was on Fiverr, and he built an app for his organization on Fiverr. He was an American. He was based in Florida. He charged them, I think, $99 for this inspection app. But he did it on the condition that, one, he was learning by doing it, right? Because he was relatively new to the Power Platform. The app looked amazing, but the deal was he'd do it for $99 as long as he was able to use their name, the company that he built it for, and also, showcase it. Well, he said the amount of money I have made off that $99, even it was like a lot, not much money to be paid for building it, he said is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because that video has brought in so much additional business to him. He doesn't do it on Fiverr. He just does it all direct, right? Because they've just come to him direct. He's He's been able to run his own training program now, which is in the multi-thousands that he charges for that. And he'll take somebody in a 12-month period from knowing no technical skills to being a guru type level. Very hands-on, very intensive. And that's one thing I've stayed away from. I've stayed away from teaching the technical side because I find there's enough content in the community around that. Microsoft, but what they don't get is the soft skills. That's my unique thing. It's the soft skills.
And I would agree. That's the technical part is probably the easiest thing to learn because it is just technical stuff, right? I mean, you can read a book, you can watch a video, you can replicate the motion.
Yeah.
That does, I'm an employer of people, and people are difficult to find. There's a massive shortage of people in our industry. Microsoft has moved so quickly that a lot of the people that used to have skills aren't as skilled in what we are doing today as they used to be. So we're seeing, which is sad. I mean, we're seeing people that invested their entire career into learning deep technical skills that now are being needed less and less and less. We're needing a different kind of a person now, people that are better thinkers. And I talk to customers all the time with some of our different Rapid Start and other things that some of them talking about doing it themselves and stuff like that. And they talk about how difficult a time they have just as an end customer finding people. And I would say that somebody coming to me looking for a job, having gone through your program, knowing the program is going to move to the top of my list.
Yeah.
And I'd have to think that, and there's a lot of people out there that may not be that familiar with you, see you on YouTube, but inside the Microsoft partner ecosystem, we all know exactly who you are, and we know the kind of people you're producing with that program. So, that's my question to you is, how do you scale this? It's you and your wife. And, I mean, you're talking about already limiting a cohort to like 100 because of noise, too
Yeah.
much noise in
Yeah.
the groups. That's a challenge for you next, I think, is okay, because there could easily be thousands and thousands of people a year that would want to do a program like this.
Yeah.
And way more than that are actually needed in our workforce. Way more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely an interesting challenge, and one that we will, I'm always seeking feedback, and anybody, has ideas and stuff, I'm always open to them. I mean, you and I have discussed this, when we were back at Power Platform Conference this year.
Yeah.
You're one of the people that encouraged me to charge for the program because, I think your words were, it's too much value that for free. And I tell you what I've noticed is that since charging for the program, and, I set out to cover my costs because I've got a hosting platform, LMS, all that kind of stuff. And one thing that I've noticed is that when people pay for something, they are way more invested in the outcome. And I always thought free is better because more people can do it. What I noticed is that when it's free, the engagement level drops off when life gets busy because, it didn't cost me anything, right? No commitment.
Exactly.
But when people
No
pay,
commitment.
they somehow, it creates a trigger that I'm like, I'm going to get my money's worth, so I'm going to do it all. And I'm like, you need to do it to get your money's worth, right? Not just have bought it like that gym membership, So I think it's a good model. One of the
years ago. Oh, go ahead.
Carry on. No, after you.
You just reminded me, years ago, and this is when Facebook had first come out. I was one of those Facebook people that was teaching people how to use Facebook. To be honest, at this point, I've forgotten everything about Facebook, but back then I saw it as an opportunity, so I kind of jumped in. And the way a lot of us were doing it then was webinars.
Yeah.
And you'd have a free webinar that would lead people to sign up for your program. And we were doing these webinars. You'd have, hundreds of people register and a handful of people show up.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of frustrating. So I made a decision that I was going to charge $1. $1.
Yeah.
And the reason was it forced them to pull out a credit card, fill out the information, to pay a stupid $1. And I had a lot of people ask, why'd you pay a stupid $1? I said, well, because you're here, right?
Yeah.
The attendance went up, like, 75% now showed up to the event. Not as many people signed up, which is good. But it was amazing how little it took to actually create some level of commitment, put a little hassle in front of them to pay $1. And they're like, oh, I spent that hassle. I'm going to go to the damn thing.
Yeah.
So yes, charging for something, has a ton to do with the level of commitment.
Yeah. I noticed, you've been posting a lot on LinkedIn lately. And one thing that caught my attention was Solution Finder, and you've heard me complain about AppSource for a long time and going, well, how do you find solutions that meet your needs? And then so from that, from an ISV perspective, but then when I started my career, there was one application in the customer engagement space. It was called CRM, and it did marketing, it did customer service, and it did sales. Now we have upwards of 30 applications in the space from Microsoft, right?
Yep.
And I see that your product allows customers to go, what's the right thing for me? And so I'm impressed with that tool. Tell us a bit about it, and what's the response you're getting from it?
The genesis for that was frustration. I've been involved with the AppSource team since before it was launched.
Yeah.
I think we were app number 2 in the market. It's the Rapid Start app, which is still the same listing from that first one. They
Wow.
keep saying I need to update it to change the GUID, and I'm like, no, I'm keeping it. So it was one of the first apps launched in that thing, and I was involved a lot in the pilot as they were building that thing with Colleen and some of the other folks involved at the time. And one of the things I kept saying to them is, this, because all they were looking at was Salesforce. They have App Exchange. We need something, and they'd have been better off if they just copied what Salesforce did. But no, we're going to reinvent the wheel. We got a better idea, and they created this tool. It's funny because for the first several months, they didn't take it public because we need more ISVs in here before we can't launch a marketplace with you 10 guys. So I'm sitting here waiting for them to get to like a couple of hundred people so that they would actually launch the damn thing. Well, now it's thousands, right? There's thousands of apps in AppSource. And it still has the same problem it had at the beginning. Is it's just a big list of apps. It's a big list of apps. You got some rudimentary filtering over on here, but my problem, and I brought it up several times to every revolving door leader of that AppSource, was I want to come to a place, call it appsource.com, that asks me questions before you show me anything. You are wasting my time by going to appsource.com and showing me a whole raft of solutions when you have no idea what I even want.
That's it.
What a waste of my time. You're going to force me to navigate this. I mean, it's a cesspool to now try and find what I want because you never asked. And I told them, I said, this should just be a UI that asks some questions first.
Yeah.
And then, algorithm on the back side that says, here you go, based on your questions.
Yeah.
Here's what you need. Instead of showing me everything in the kitchen sink and having me cross off, this app has nothing to do with it. So that's what I decided, and I actually got frustrated. I got frustrated enough over the holidays. I spent the holidays. I thought, let me put together something that fits my thinking. Right, simple app, starts by asking you some basic questions. What's your industry? What's your role? How big is your company? How big is your budget? Just some basic questions. And what is your goal? What is it you're trying to solve? And then based on those 5 questions, it churns through, an algorithm and comes back and says, okay, you've got a small budget. I'm not going to show you expensive apps. You've got a big budget. I don't need to show you the cheap ones. You're looking for this kind of thing. You're looking for field service. I'm not going to show you project management. I mean, let's get focused on the ones, a short list. Give me a short list, 6, 8 things that I should go explore. So I don't have to go explore for 2 days some app only to finally realize that it's not what I need.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. So it kind of took off.
I like it.
After the holidays, when I told people about it, it's still, people are banging on that thing every day. Every day they're banging on the thing. And I added the ability when they get the list, and it's all automated. It doesn't ask them. We don't need their name. You go in and pick some things. It'll churn. It'll spit up a report. You can print it out. Here's the things to go look at. And some information about, your role, your industry, everything else related to, the available solutions. It's free, and again, don't ask who you are, don't care. But I did put a little button down at the bottom when you see the results, so you can let us know, is this too many? Is this not enough? Are these not relevant? So we can kind of continue to fine tune, the algorithms to present the best solutions. And then whenever Microsoft launches something new, some new solution, work that into the mix and figure out, which are the people that need to see this and which don't. Just trying to save people time. So it's been not a financial success because there's no money in it, but it's been a tremendous user success, and everybody seems to be very happy with it. So
brilliant. It's interesting what you said there, isn't it? I've been reading a book called Inspired at the moment, and it's written by a guy that has been a product manager for about 30 years, software product manager. And he said the biggest challenge with so many organizations is they fall in love with their solution, not the problem.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And what you're doing there is allowing people to define their situation, and then going, okay, do we have a solution? In design thinking, it's called the double diamond. And one of the things everyone's encouraged to do is stop looking at the solution until you've understood the situation. Like,
Yep.
and I just see,
Yep.
even I've seen so many Microsoft sellers, and I'm not meaning Microsoft, the company, but people working at partners. And the first time they meet a customer, they've got their PowerPoint deck ready to go. And we're going to tell them what they need. And I'm like,
Yeah. How could
guys,
you know
let's
that?
understand what the problem is. Let's
Yep.
really drill into, and I love the Toyota way, which is the 5 whys. Because often
Yeah.
what is presented as the initial problem's not the initial problem, right? It's until you unpack it. And then we can look at how, what's in our, kitty bag about how we could solve this. But it's an interesting model, because I always thought AppSource was in that same category. It had infinite scroll. If you haven't clicked on this one, we're going to show you 50 more, and if you haven't, we'll show you another 50. And it was kind of like, as long as we smash them with as many solutions, they'll think. And of course, one of my biggest complaints with AppSource for so long was it's full of crap.
Yeah.
They wanted it to look like shit a ton was in there, so they allowed people to put up just, a lead generation listing, hoping, like the shotgun effect, hopefully someone will click on it and we'll get a sale.
Yeah.
And it's just crap. They're not value. And so therefore, you go there a few times and you get that experience, and guess what happens? You don't come back.
Yeah. Well, and they as a publisher, on the publishing side, I can pick that my app that I built, whatever it is, can be used with any of these things. I built a Power App. It can be used with this. I'm picking all these things, and then as a buyer who has a particular environment, and you see this app, and then you go get it, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, no, this has dependencies. It won't run here because the guy said it would work here, but it won't work here, and no policing of any of that. So AppSource is a series of bad experiences for customers.
Yeah.
But there's a desperation for customers to find solutions.
Yeah.
And as you say, you got this scrolling window showing you another 50, another 50. It seems endless, but the solution to your problem is probably in there.
Yeah.
It isn't that it doesn't exist. It's just you can't find it. You cannot find it. So the solution finder, which by the way, MicrosoftSolutionFinder.com, is primarily initially focused on the Microsoft solutions, because that's almost even more complicated. AppSource is on the ISV side. We recently added ISV to it, but even before you get to ISV, as a customer coming into the ecosystem, you're like, I've got this problem. I don't know which Microsoft product I should be looking at.
Yeah.
So that's our first focus, is let's get you on a short list of the right Microsoft products that can solve that problem. And then, we're going to be building out the ISV component to this thing, later. We'll probably make them pay, so at least it can cover its cost.
Nice.
But yeah, it's an interesting space that you and I are in, and watching this thing over the years evolve. You being in Microsoft much longer than us, us coming over from Salesforce back in 2010, I think, something like that. But I know you've been in this space even longer, but it has moved with a frustrating jerkiness.
Yeah. It's massive now, right? It's amazingly how large things are now.
Oh, just when you look at the size of the business applications team that, largely grew footprint and headcount under Philips, and I don't think has slowed down.
No.
It's big. I mean, Satya Nadella made a big difference for that, I think, because he respected it. But the AI stuff is the one that I think has everybody's attention now, and I want to get some of your thoughts on that. Also, I can share mine. I think that I don't think what's the word? Now I've forgotten the word for the true AI, the true intelligence that they talk about.
Are we talking about the generative AI and large language models and?
Yeah, but what's the term when it's supposed to be as smart as us?
Like sentience, reaching sentience, or artificial general intelligence, AGI.
That's it, AGI. Yeah, AGI. I don't think that's possible. I don't think they get there. I think they're all downplaying the complexity of the human brain way, way too much.
Yeah.
to get there. That's my opinion on the AGI aspect, and I'm going to cut out all of the fumbling around before that.
I
But
definitely think that we will get there.
All right. On
Because
this
at
we
the end of
shall
the day,
disagree.
I think our intelligence that we have as humans is not really too special. We think it is because we're humans and we're at the top of the food chain, and therefore we are the most intelligent, species. But I think that the whole concept of us as an identity and the fact that we can think for ourselves and we can retain knowledge generationally, which is unique to humans, I think computers are only going to do that at scale. And I definitely think we will get to that point of, will they have feelings? Well, at the end of the day, I still believe feelings are a mathematical / chemical scientific process that runs inside us. So therefore, it is replicatable. And at the point that perhaps humans, let's say, what I think is going to happen, this is my speculation, is that we're going to build an AI that's not going to be AGI, but it's going to be advanced enough to be able to build AGI. So in other words, the AI are going to start building their own AIs. And they're going to look at things way differently than people look at them. And that's where I think they'll reach the intelligence. I don't think it's necessarily going to be people that build AGI. I think it's going to be a very smart AI that ultimately builds AGI. That's my opinion.
Well, kind of along the lines of, I don't think scientists will cure cancer. I think it'll ultimately be cured by, AI.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. It just has too much. It has a different kind of capacity than a human brain.
Yeah.
And I think it can solve maybe different problems.
Yeah.
I think we can both agree that the first company to claim they've reached AGI will be lying, and it will be marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, totally. Do you know what? I think once it's been achieved, it will not be talked about, because what will happen is that if you had an AGI that was under control, you could do a lot to change events of the world in your favor. And the last thing you'd want is people to be aware that you're using AGI to do it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think it will be.
If I discovered it, I wouldn't tell anybody.
No.
I would use it to predict. I would use it to predict the stock market. I would use it to predict the weather. I would use it for all sorts of those kind of uses. And
so many industries you could pop up behind it, right? That would allow you to make phenomenal amounts of money. That then, with money, of course, comes power, right? And so therefore, all of a sudden, I think honestly that we will wake up one day and realize that the things have been run for a long time by AI that we didn't realize. And so I think that if somebody says they've achieved it, you're right, it's marketing, it's bullshit, they haven't got it. The people that do achieve it will not be saying anything about it. It will be their secret squirrel thing that they use to manipulate governments, eliminate wars, improve the environment.
Create wars.
There's so many things. Eh?
Create wars.
No, I think I honestly don't believe the future. I don't believe in a dystopian future that has moved what we've seen in movies. I honestly believe AI will be smart enough to learn from mistakes and not make dumb human emotional mistakes or greedy based mistakes, because it really doesn't need to be greedy.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree with that. I think that wherever it goes, we're not looking at Terminator scenarios.
No.
That's
I don't good movie plot, but
happening.
Nothing else. Definitely that's not going to be our future.
So let's bring it back to today and Microsoft in particular, and the value that it brings or potentially can bring or isn't ever going to bring, the hype, the expectations. Where are you coming down on that today? I mean, I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think that so much of what we do is reassembling information for other people, right? Whether it's selling, whether it's marketing, whether it's building a solution. And I think that we are, and I'm glad that Microsoft are at the forefront of a lot of this, right? That their market share, that they pivoted, they did the right thing, I believe. And the thing is they're in the position to do it because of M365,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the main product, like, where do we waste so much time? How much time, like, the data is out there, how much time people waste in, one, meetings, and two, in email and shuffling paper. Like, when you work for a large corporation, the amount of admin to update reports, to, are you being utilized correctly? Well, we noticed 2 cents out on your receipt against the credit card. Well, we're gonna trigger an investigation. Like, it's just bureaucracy after bureaucracy. And if you look at modern companies, they're not led by leadership anymore. They're led by management. They're led by MBA types. And the thing is, all they do is, how do we control risk? Not really innovate. That's why all innovation is coming from startups, because they don't give a F about risk right at the moment. They as in the early part of their career. That's why I think particularly Google dropped the ball on AI's move and position, because it got large enough that it had a risk profile that it didn't want to piss off all their current stakeholders, and therefore they, even though they had the advantage, didn't use it because they are still trying to bleed the advertising. And it comes back to the whole "who moved my cheese?" The industry was changing, and they were like, well, we're still milking it over here. We're going to keep milking it. And all of a sudden, another company comes out of the blue. And what is it? Just been valued at, it just did 2 billion turnover, I think, OpenAI. And what a short amount of time, right? And it's just
fastest ever.
It's just ridiculous, the speed. So I think that for information workers, AI is going to be an absolute game changer. We're all going to get smarter and smarter and smarter at doing what's important, but really leaving the tech. Like, I believe that there will come a day where PowerPoints will be truly awesome because AI is creating the PowerPoint, not people,
Yeah,
And
I agree.
And also, being able to cut past the bullshit, like in sales motions and things like that, because you're really getting to the core issue of the problem. You're solving it in a way that is reasonable, financially reasonable, and that people will make decisions so much quicker, because I think the trust factor will be so much higher. Because, like, if you're in the buying situation and you've got an AI on your shoulder, or, using access to your camera, they're going to tell the shifty body motions, like, that person's lying to me. So therefore, the trust factor, I think, with AI is going to go through the roof. And to be able to know, like, building, I think, the speed of trust, people have written on it, and how trust in business is so important. I think we're going to see that with AI. It's going to enable that. And so therefore, people that are bad actors are going to flag really quickly, and they're going to realize that model ain't going to work anymore. They might be able to deceive humans, but they're not going to be able to deceive AI. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I think we're approaching the point where it's you'd see people do a post on LinkedIn and it was obviously AI generated. Okay. And then other people would call them out. You used AI to write that. Okay. But maybe it was AI generated, but it was still human directed as to what it was going to be talking about.
Yes.
And the content, AI generated or not, has value.
Yeah.
So who cares? Who cares whether a person sat there and thought of every word, or thought of concepts, had AI come up with a bunch of words and then adjust the results, the value, the resulting value is the same.
Yeah.
If not potentially even higher.
Yeah. Because it's more accurate, right?
Yeah. So I think we're at a point where we're going to see less joking about the use of AI, because it's been a novelty for lots of folks, and oh, you didn't write that, but I mean, I think it won't be long before nobody writes anything. It's everything.
No,
it's just too much.
Good use of time, right? It won't be good use of time. It won't be, human accuracy won't be there. So it's a no-brainer to go this way.
My only challenge is I can't get it to use my style of writing. It won't swear.
Yet, right?
Yet. And I'm going to go down the path you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago of maybe some of my own stuff that I could train to talk the way that I want to talk.
Yeah. See, I've
'Cause
got
the-
two. I've got two AIs running on my computer. I've got one called Comfy UI, which is by Stable, and that's 13 gigs, and that's localized on my machine. So I've got a good GPU in my computer. It runs, allows me to create graphics, that on a cloud public facing you probably couldn't create, right? And then the NVIDIA this week just dropped an AI chatbot that you download onto your computer. You can give it all the documentations. It doesn't go out to the internet unless you ask it to. So you think now that that's localized on mine, like in your scenario, right, like me, you are going to be able to train it, because one of the things of big corporations like Microsoft, right? They don't want a litigation case against them because their AI spat out something that was biased or, deemed by some to be.
Well, they've been down that path before.
They have, right? They have. So what I think is going to happen, and I think, by the way, I don't know if you've seen this, Apple have spent over twice as much as Microsoft on AI investments in the last 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, but it's quite, nobody's saying anything, right?
Yeah.
As in, like, I saw a report where all the AI companies ever invested. I know Apple are going to come out with a vengeance, I reckon, in 2024 with localized AI. It'll run on their hardware. Yeah. You'll be able to start creating a memory model of your life, the way you act, operate, etc. And you will decide through the security model who you're going to let bits out to other systems you interact with. And I think at that point, you will be able to train the Steve Mordu. You'll be able to give them all your podcasts, all your writing, and say, right, write a piece on this in my voice, and it will be absolutely perfectly accurate. People, I don't think, would be able to tell the difference. In fact, in the future, I think only AI would be able to tell what was human and what wasn't. And then I think it'll be like an arms race, like with antivirus software. A new virus are released, a new updates released to counter it, right? Yeah. I think that's going to be the same scenario with AI. Humans are never going to, they're never going to be able to know this wasn't or was AI generated. The brain is not smart enough to do it.
And I don't think it'll matter. I mean, these AI detectors are only exist now because of the novelty, and people are wanting to know if this was but that won't last long before people won't care whether it was AI or not.
Yeah, exactly.
So having a detector, people won't care.
No.
Oh yeah, you replied to my post that I wrote it with AI. So the fuck what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody's going to care.
You've still got to prompt it, right? You still got to get your prompt right. And that's why even this debate around whether AI generated art should be copyrightable. Well, it took somebody to craft that prompt. People just don't wake up as great prompters, right? I often find it's a skill to learn to get better at prompting. So.
I mean, if you type in, draw me a picture of a puppy dog, and it draws a puppy dog, I don't know if that should be copyrightable, because I just told draw a puppy dog.
Yeah.
AI decided what it would look like. But then if that was just how I started, but then I continued to say, okay, make his ears bigger, change the eyes to blue, let's trim. Now I'm participating in the final outcome. I didn't just throw out a word and AI generated the entire outcome. And I think it's the same thing with the written word. I think you have people now still that are saying, write me a outline and flesh out all the paragraphs for this topic, and let AI write everything. And all they really did was insert that word of a topic and then go publish it. But I've read things like that. I'm playing around with it myself, and to get it really decent, you have to come back and say, okay, that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Now go back in and de-emphasize this and emphasize that. And you end up, at the end of the day, I'm not going to publish something under my name that I don't think makes sense. Up. Just to,
yeah.
I mean, it's not a numbers game of how much content can I pump out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's still got to be stuff that I like, and you're not going to get that without that massaging. But I think you can get pretty close. If I could
Yeah.
get it to swear right now, I'd be done. Well, the other thing is I can actually write. I can write 1,000 words faster than I can ask it to write them and then
Yeah.
go back and massage it to
Yeah.
get it to where I want. By the time I get there, you know, I was like, it reminds me of the old Nuance audio speech to text.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you try and write an email with your voice. So by the time you finished editing all the typos and
It
screw
would
ups,
have
I could have
taken,
just
yeah,
I
you
could
quicker
have
to
just
write it.
written the damn email. So it didn't really save anything. So
Yeah.
all right, Mark, you got anything else coming? I'm going to see you soon, right? We're
Yeah.
both going to be in where are we going to be? Seattle? No.
We're going to be in Seattle for MVP
Oh,
Summit,
yeah.
and then we're going to be in
Yeah.
May. We're going to be in Slovenia, right, for the
That
big
shall be a
Epic
blast.
Dynamics Minds conference.
That was you were missed last year, my friend. That was
Yeah,
a
I'm looking forward to this year.
tremendously fun conference, beautiful area, just a great event. So, got anything else you want to cover off?
I'm all good. Thank you, sir. It's been good talking to you.
Cool, man. Good catching up.